Alright, I want to talk about frames and frame design. So I've got a couple of my frames that I had. This is a GepRC Mark IV and this is a GepRC Mark V. This one solves a lot of problems. The Mark V is a lot better than the Mark IV. Both have issues, and I think that the Beaver, which is this, which I've got here, pre-built up, I think that solves most, if not all, of the problems of these two. But I'm going to talk about what the problems are, and then talk about how that solves them. Between this one and that one, there's been quite some improvements, let's say. So underneath, we can see they've got different arm mounting patterns. So they both have like easy access to the stack. Like through this one, it's a little bit harder to see, but these holes actually go through to the stack bolts. You might be able to see that in there, but the stack bolts are in there, and the arms don't actually touch the stack bolts. And here you see the arms go across, so you don't actually touch the stack bolts there either. So that's very good. That's why I bought this frame in the first place, and I bought one and I bought another one because my thinking being, if I break one, I can fly the other one and it will fly the same, and then if I break that one, I should be able to Frankenstein squad them together and still keep flying for the day, repair everything and come back. So the arm mounting pattern here, whilst it doesn't interfere with the stack, is actually quite bad because this is how the arms go together. So you can see there's a real tiny little what do you call it there, a little tiny bit that touches, and that's it for bracing. So it's braced against there, and then it's got this plate on top, and the plate itself, it's very thin. It's like this, so that is ultra thin and snaps mega easy, like super snaps. So I snapped loads of these plates. When I bought the second frame, it came with this thicker one, but still it's the same problem, and the screws would still end up pivoting out because they're not braced enough inside, and it was always like stripping out standoffs. And the Mark V solves that with the arm mounting pattern is a lot more braced. Like if you see how that rests on, it's braced against there, and then the other arm on the other side would be braced this way. You would see they touch here and they touch here, and then it's braced against this plate in the middle. The only problem with that is that makes the arms themselves more prone to break. This makes this part more prone to break. I guess nothing wrong with that. You'd rather have a really sturdy build when you're, I guess you don't want to waggle around and go loose. None of these screws have ever backed out the same way that has, and you know, I've never broken anything there, but you can see even this now, I've got a real bendy arm because it's just cracked all the carbon fibre as I've crashed it. I've zip tied it to keep it secure, but I've not been flying it with it like this. This is dead. But the reason I haven't replaced it is what's wrong with this arm mounting pattern is this is a front arm that is broken, and I have a rear arm. So I can't actually replace it with this one because the other one doesn't have a notch in it, and the screw bolts, if you look, if I line this up perfectly straight, you can see that the screws don't actually align with each other. One is further across than the other, so you can't use a front arm at the back or a back arm at the front, and vice versa. Camera mounting, you can see on both of these, they've got like, this one looks like it's quite braced. If you put it upwards like that, you can see. But when I had my original Foxeer lens on, it stuck out and actually smashed the lens. This one, it's a little bit more recessed when you put it in. That's not even as far in as it goes. It would be, if I was actually flying, it would be a lot further back in. The only problem with it is where the screw holes are. Again, if I use my spare arm as a ruler, you can see that it goes right into where the screw holes are. It goes right into the motors, so you can't actually get a driver that's long in that way because it's like coming in at an angle because the motor's in the way. Whereas this one, it's a little further forward and it's slightly better. But this whole cam cage is really good, very strong, nice and like flexible here. And then this part at the top where it's like recessed, if I hold it there, you can see it's got like a recess in it. That is like, there's a carbon plate that goes on top, and then you can strap underneath it and like battery strap something down or whatever you want. Rear part here, both builds are quite tight inside, surprisingly. Like this one is tight because the standoffs are so narrow, and the recommended way to mount the arms is not what I've done. So you can see I've got the arms like kind of underslung here. The recommendation is to put them on the inside, but they do ship with these taller standoffs to make it possible to put them on the underside. So that's what I've done. But basically, if they're on the inside, it cramps up at the back here where the cap is, and it cramps up the XT60, and it makes it real sort of difficult to get everything in there. And the other thing that's tight about this is you're never going to get your VTX mounted that way, because that little MMCX connector that comes out is going to get pressed against this pillar because they're so tight. whereas that's solved here because they're a lot wider. If I put them like this next to each other, you can see the oh it's hard because it's all mirrored, but you can see they're a little bit wider, or enough wider that they that you can fit the VTX in lengthways. This is nice. I wish that the Mark V had this, like hole for the XT60, because this coming out the side, I feel like it's more likely to get clipped because it can literally, if the battery ejects, it can fall into the prop line. Whereas on here, there's no chance that's going to go in the prop line unless the battery ejects and it wraps around here, which it could do, but it's just, if the battery flies off, this isn't going in there. Whereas if the battery flies off here, this is like flapping and potentially could fall into the props. Minor nitpick, not a big deal. And I think the only other minor nitpick I have about this one, because it does solve a lot of the problems. You can see the cam cage is better, the mounting at the back is better, the arm mounts are better, apart from being the dodgy arms, but it's all like small nitpicks. And then the last nitpick is these two screws are different than these two and these two. These four are the same, and these are real short, and that's because of the way the cam cage is designed. If you look just here, it's sort of, you couldn't fit a long screw in there because the pillar is shaped at an angle. Yeah, so all those things I think are resolved if I just move these out by the Beaver. I nearly called it a Badger then, that's another one, but this is a Beaver. So this has got the same sort of underslung arm pattern, but that's what they intended it to be. And not only that, it's actually very spacious inside. It looks like there's a lot of space. We'll see when I actually come to mount stuff into it, because I'm going to rip the guts out of those other two and put it into two of these. It's got this cam cage with these cam savers, so like, and you can push these at a different angle. They're actually really tightly put in at the moment, but you can push these back and forward to move the position of the camera around a little bit. The idea being that if the camera takes a bonk, it moves them instead of moving the camera, or instead of just rigidly holding the camera and then shattering the camera. And the cage itself looks like it would cover it. I think it looks that way anyway. At the back, there looks to be enough space between the pillars to get the VTX the right way around, and there looks to be a lot of space back here. The stack goes here, and it looks like there's plenty of room for a VTX between the stack mounts. You can get to the stack bolts, you can see right through there. You can get to the stack bolts through there without ever having to undo the frame, and vice versa. You can pull one thing, pull the arm out. The arms are actually symmetrical, so like this one will go anywhere where you want. So you only need to buy one arm type, which obviously you've got the benefit of everything else on this frame, as well as having the correct, as it were, arms. And I think that covers most of it. It has got the hole for the XT60 as well, and the hole at the front if you wanted to do some weird front XT60 type shenanigans. I also think, not that I'm sure, but I think a battery strap would fit through there, and you could battery strap something to the front if you wanted. Yeah, so basically it looks like it's solved everything. It does do this bracing thing in the middle, like the Apex does and like the Mark V did. It's like braced inside against this piece that's sort of a balloon shape there and like pointed here. It sort of braces together, keeps the arms in place. So then when you undo this, it slides out and you know you're getting the arm in the right place. And that's about it really. I think this will be good. It does come with this race wire as well. It comes with the race wire and heat shrink to put the race wire on. Only thing with that was I didn't look at the instructions deeply enough, and this one is not heat shrunk down, but I'm going to hope to cut the other one like 1 millimeter shorter on every cut, and that should gain me 2, 4, 6, 8 millimeters, which should be enough to put one there, I think. Yeah, so there you go. That's basically where we're going, and in like a few months I'll know whether this is good or not. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.